Hey y'all, Tawana Michelle here, narcissistic abuse recovery coach, mental health therapist, and certified trauma therapist. And today I am back with another video, guys. I want to talk to you about how to tell if you are limiting yourself to what you think you deserve in relationships. I have been there as well. I am a recovering codependent, still recovering, actively working at healing from interpersonal trauma and recovering from codependency every single day. It is a life journey, the journey of healing trauma, reconnecting to the self, loving self, learning your value and your worth. It never ends because it's so easy to fall back into those old patterns. I want to give you some signs that you are limiting yourself. Like I said, sometimes people struggle with the awareness of that. And let me tell you why. There's a reason. One is conscious thought is different from our subconscious beliefs. So consciously, we may say, I feel good about myself. I know my worth. I know my value. You know, we see this a lot. Which is great because you want to continue to say those things. They are affirming. And eventually you want to get to a place where you believe that at your core. Your subconscious gets that message and believes that. So consciously, we may have these thoughts, but at the core of that, beneath that, subconsciously, what we are not able to easily access is something that is quite different. That inner critic, that inner voice that says, I don't know, maybe not so much, right? Maybe you don't really deserve more. Maybe you need to accept this. At least, someone notices you and wants to be with you. And I'm going to talk about the whole at least thinking because that's definitely one of the signs. You limit yourself because of your belief that you are not worth more. So the first sign that you are limiting yourself in these relationships is that you accept the bare minimum, okay? And even less. What that looks like for you may be different, right? That is going to be subjective. But you'll know you're accepting the bare minimum when you find yourself wanting more, but accepting that they're not giving more. For instance, if you are dating someone and let's say y'all have been dating for a while and you're wanting something more exclusive, you're wanting a commitment with that person, and maybe they don't want that, or maybe they're not just taking any steps to move toward that, and you find yourself saying, well, at least, we're going to keep coming back to that at least, right? Well, at least, we've been going out a while. At least he shows up for me sometimes. I want more, but, I can be okay with this. When you find yourself wanting more and accepting less, you are accepting the bare minimum. Why? Perhaps you don't believe you deserve any more. Perhaps you think you jumped on the last train coming, which is so far from the truth. So you may be accepting the bare minimum, and you also may be accepting breadcrumbs, which is different. Breadcrumbs is not even the bare minimum. Breadcrumbs is, I'm going to throw you a little bit of attention here and there. I'm going to give you a little bit of what you want occasionally, unexpectedly, to make you always want more, and I'm never going to give it. I'm just going to keep you hanging on and dangling the bread in front of you, but just giving you the crumbs. So with breadcrumbing, you're not even getting the minimum. You're hardly getting anything. But you go back to that at least type of thinking. Well, at least they do come around sometimes. At least when I don't want to be alone, I know that I can be with them. At least there are times when I get some attention and I do feel desired when they choose to come around. You don't deserve to be breadcrumbed, but do you believe you do? That is the question. At your core, if you are in a situation like this, question that. Challenge that. Ask yourself, do I deserve more than this? Not even do I deserve. Start with, do I want more than this? If the answer is yes, that's going to be very telling. So I would encourage you to dig deeper, explore further. If I want more than this, why am I just accepting for what I'm getting? Another thing you may find yourself doing, if you are limiting yourself in these relationships because of worth, is that you might find yourself choosing people that need you in some way. Usually these people might be lower functioning than you. It might be financially, it might be professionally, it might be emotionally, it might be physically, spiritually, any kind of way. And I'm not saying we always have to be completely equally matched. Sometimes we do choose people that are different because they provide a balance in a way that is healthy and in a way that we need. But I'm not talking about that. I'm saying unconsciously choosing people that are going to need you to fix them, rescue them, be there for them, take care of them, buy things for them, make them feel better about themselves. I'm not talking about choosing consciously to help a partner because they are in need of that. I'm talking about choosing someone that needs to be fixed or helped or rescued in some way because it serves two purposes. One, it helps you feel better about yourself because someone needs me. That gives me a sense of worth. That gives me a sense of value, which I otherwise may not have. And secondly, if they need me in these ways, then they're probably going to stick around. They're probably going to be there for a long time. They're not going to leave me if they need a place to live and they have to come stay with me. They're not going to leave me if they can't take care of themselves and they're dependent on me. They're not going to leave me if their self-esteem is so low and they only feel positive about themselves when they're with me. So that's what you believe. And it gives you a sense of feeling needed, feeling loved and accepted and worthy. And let me tell you, it is also misleading. I'm sure many of you have either been in a situation or you know someone who has been in a situation, a relationship where she did the whole upgrade. She chose someone that she could really pour into and help and lift him up and take care of him. And or she, I know I say he a lot, which is what I say by default, but it goes either way. And then this person gets to a better position in their life and they do leave. They do, and they will leave you. So if someone is only with you because of what you can do for them, that is conditional. That is not even love. That is taking advantage of you. That is using you. So if you are in that type of situation, then that is a sign that perhaps you need to question your self-worth and really work on that. Another thing that happens in these relationships when we aren't really sure of our worth is that we accept a lot of mistreatment. Now, there's a lot that goes into that I really cannot unpack in this particular video. It would be too long. There are so many reasons why we accept mistreatment and even abuse. And I am in no way blaming the victim here. The perpetrator of abuse is always at fault. There is, however, a particular type of person that they tend to seek out. There are things about us, about who we are, about the unhealed parts of us, about our attachment styles, about our past trauma that is not resolved, that makes us more vulnerable to these types of people. And once we're in those relationships, all of those things make it more difficult for us to get out. We become more easily trauma bonded. We become more dependent on the people who are hurting us to rescue us and to love us. And you get stuck in that cycle. I get it. I've been there more than once. So I am not blaming. I want you to understand that that is a sign that there is some work to do within the self. There is some inner work. There is some inner healing. There is some trauma work that needs to be done. There is some grief work. There is some self-love work. When we accept this type of mistreatment and not only stay in these relationships, but sometimes we see them as normal. And there are reasons for that that I'm not going to get into. But my whole point is, if this is happening, then we are limiting ourselves and we are not aware of our inherent worth. Also, you may find yourself not being able to set boundaries, having a really hard time setting boundaries in these relationships. When someone has difficulty setting boundaries, that is about a fear of rejection and a fear of loss. So if I set boundaries with someone, also a fear of punishment, let me add that. If I set boundaries with someone, then I'm afraid they're going to either reject me, which means if I'm in a relationship with them, they may withhold affection, they may become distant, they may give me the silent treatment, which is also punishing. All of these things that are rejection are also a punishment. But these are things that they are taking away. So they're going to reject you. They're going to reject giving you time and attention and affection and love. Or they may punish you by giving you something harmful, such as abuse. Maybe they start yelling at you or demeaning you or calling you names or worse. So the fear of setting boundaries is about what's going to happen. The belief that there are going to be negative repercussions if I do this. And it goes further than that. That means what? That means if I set boundaries and I am rejected and they pull away from me, then I'm going to lose that person's love and affection and maybe even lose them. If I set boundaries and they are aggressive with me, then I am going to be hurt by that person, and they can also potentially leave me because I've made them upset, I've made them angry. And what does that loss mean, right? The fear of loss in relationship is about that inability to be with the self, that narrative that says if I lose them, if they leave me, regardless of the reason, if I lose this relationship, then that says something about me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I can't do anything right. You start having all of these negative thoughts about yourself that have been internalized that you are trying to avoid. So that's why we hold on to these relationships and we have difficulty setting boundaries, because it's not the boundary itself, it's what the boundary could potentially lead to and what that means and how devastatingly painful that can be if it triggers that core wound of inadequacy, of not being enough, of being unworthy, of being unlovable. So if that is you, if you're having a hard time setting boundaries when you need to, when you're being mistreated, when you see these red flags, when someone is overstepping, then these may be some of the reasons. Another sign that you are limiting yourself to what you think you deserve in relationships is that you have a lot of negative self-talk and a lot of negative thoughts about yourself. You have this inner critic. You doubt yourself. You question yourself a lot. You say negative things to yourself. Like, who would want me? I should be glad that this person wants to be with me. I'm not even good enough. Especially in this relationship, if something goes wrong, if there is a fight about something, you may have a tendency to blame yourself a lot. You may say things like, I should have gotten them upset, when you're only just expressing your feelings. Or I should be glad that they want to be with me. At least, back to the at least thinking, right? At least they want to be with me. At least they're in a relationship with me. I don't deserve any better than this anyway, so I just need to make the best of it. This is where all these subconscious beliefs start to come to the surface. And that happens when it is triggered. It gets activated by conflicts that show up in the relationship. And you may start to say those things. And you blame yourselves for things that are not your fault. You take responsibility for things that are not yours. And you have a hard time holding the other person accountable, which goes back to that fear of rejection, punishment, and loss, and what that means. And the last thing I have is you start to have a lack mindset. And this is what I call the at least thinking. Anytime, anytime, anytime you find yourself saying, well, at least, you are already settling for less than what you deserve. You are already limiting yourself. Pay attention to that type of thinking. Pay attention to those words, at least. Anything following that is going to leave you settling for something that you really don't want, but you're not sure that you deserve anything more. And you do. And it's so important to pay attention to the patterns of your relationships, to how you speak to yourself, to how you take care of yourself, to explore what may be beneath the surface of these harmful relational dynamics that you keep finding yourselves in over and over again. Even if you're not ready to face it full on, be curious about it and just notice it. That's a good place to start. Just observing and noticing. And that's all I have, y'all. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care. Bye.